Thanks, Kate. My respects to the Aranda people upon whose country I live, work, and play. The music of fences. Do we have a picture, by the way, at the moment or not?
Yes. I was just going to say, do you want me to start sharing? And I'll.
Yes, please, because otherwise I don't know where we are. Okay. Oh, hang about. Now everything's gone crazy. Okay, that gives me some idea. Okay, the Music of Fences project has been running on and off since 1983, both here and in Australia and around the world at various hotspots, including such places as the USA-Mexico border fence or the Israeli-built separation fence that divides up Palestine. Time's too short here to go into all these manifestations of human insanity, except to say that in the town of Bilin in Palestine, the separation fence, as with many fences around the world, is guarded by young men whose agenda is to shorten the lives of anyone like myself who mistakes the fence for being a musical instrument and tries to play it. Music can be a dangerous business when guns and grenades are aimed at you. By the way, I'm not playing any fence music in the background of this chat because I hate background music. If you want to hear fence music, there's plenty online. Originally, the fence project was all about revealing the extraordinary sonic qualities of long strings. And after building longer and longer string instruments in galleries, the penny finally dropped when I was out back one day near Broken Hill and the following concept formulated. Australia is not covered by millions and millions of kilometers of fences. It is in fact covered by millions of kilometers of string instruments, and we just got to get out there and play them. The fences you see here are near the Strzelecki track, and it shows Hollis Taylor and myself playing music in a desert. Why a fence? Why it is there? Surely cattle aren't that bloody stupid. They tend to hang around where the water is. Otherwise, they die. I'll leave that thought floating in the dam for the next 9 minutes. Could I have the next pic, Sarah, please? That's it, that one. After having already undertaken several fence tours and tens of thousands of fence miles under our belts, we were invited in 2004 to Nauru on the Dali River in the Northern Territory as part of their Easter festival, where the women sell their paintings and the blokes play a footy tournament. We were to install and play a fence in the center of town. I don't really know why a First Nations community would want such a thing, but they did. A gig. With help of the local council, 2 poison green pine logs were erected and we began to string them up with fence wire. The women from town started to gather around with some very glum looks on their faces. Oh, I thought, we've committed some kind of cultural clangor. I asked what was wrong. You can't play music on them for posts, they announced. Why, I asked. Because them dead ones. Yes, I said, I know. As the mood intensified, they're just normal fence posts. Did they have any suggestions whereby we could progress? Oh, yes. We're going to have to paint them up, bring them back to life. So with great relief, they had presented us with a pertinent and simple solution. The women discussed what was appropriate iconography for the next season and started to paint them up. We played the show, then the community and the guests played the fence, and at the end of the day, the now living fence posts were sold off to some white art dealer, hopefully for a pile of money, which went into the community where it should go. Not a bad result. Could I have the next pic, please, Sarah? The book, yes. The book Post Impressions is a travel book for tragic intellectuals, and I'm sure many of us come under that category. My partner Hollis wrote the book with quite a few asides from me, Australia as seen by foreigners through its fences. It became quite quickly clear that the fence project was more than just a musical adventure. We were suddenly dealing with notions of continental scale, a musical map of terrain, boundaries, borders, frontier conquests, indigenous displacement, colonialization, ownership, philosophical issues of the divided brain, human exceptionalism, versus nature, the wild versus the tamed, white versus black, what is public, what is private, dividing the poor out of sight from the wealthy, and on through endless limited dualities of comprehension. Such is fence function. We're skipping the next one, please, Sarah. That's it. Fences across salt licks, so common in South Australia. In some ways, building a fence is like dogs pissing on lampposts, a mark of territory. Problem is that fences don't last so long, and sooner or later gravity will win the battle. As we shall see here, a rising salt lake devouring the man-made artifact. Nature is going to win eventually. Geography outlasts history. Next pick, please, Sarah. Dr. John Pickard is probably Australia's only fenceologist. Estimated through his research that by 1892, there were over 2.7 million kilometres of fencing just in New South Wales alone, with about 20 million trees cut down for the pleasure of this progress. Next picture, please. This is a fence. This is north of Myrie on the old Ghan railway train track. The dingo fence, as some of you I'm sure will know of, is at least 5,500 kilometres long, arguably the longest fence artifact in the world, being at least twice the length of the Great Wall of China. And it mostly doesn't work, of course, in keeping the dingoes and wild dogs out of the sheep and cattle. It's always in a state of decay and collapse. A small army of fence runners can't keep the elements from destroying it. Camels run into it, knock it over. Dogs dig under and collapse it. Sand dunes build up and cover it. Hence, the horrendous poison 1080 is used liberally all the way along its route through 3 states. Death from 1080 is not a pleasant thing to witness. Next pick, please, Sarah. Everywhere you go in Australia, there are Pythonesque former fences, dysfunctional remains, too expensive to maintain, memories of struggle and hubris. The outback is a graveyard of ghost towns and fences. Another pig, please. Can we go to, oh yeah, that one. And sorry, we'll go to another one because time is shorter now. Next, yeah. This is one of my favorites out of many. As a violinist, we are often told in the score to play, to bow our strings, con sordini, with mutes. And in the Northern Territory, we've got a great example here of a fence, which I think is a musical instrument, of course, being muted by some industrious termites who are determined to mute the resonant potential of this fence. Next pick, please, Sarah. This is Starvation Bay, a suitably named cove from where the rabbit-proof fence #1 started. And so it was, ladies and gentlemen. In 1901, 400 brave but demented souls set forth to stop the rabbit plague entering Western Australia. As they progressed northwards, they could see that their efforts were hopeless, useless, and completely pointless, as the rabbits were already jumping with bunny happiness into Western Australia in their droves. The fence took 4 years to finish. People died building it. And on completion, the fence kept all the bunnies in WA, not stopping bunny coming or even bunny leaving. Obviously a waste of time and energy. Did they consider to stop building the fence? Of course not. May I remind you that this was still the British Empire, and the task of subduing people's fauna and flora was a primary occupation. So after they finished the #1 bunny fence, they realized they must immediately build more fences within the original fence line. Bunny fences #2 and 3 came along. Indeed, 8 rabbit-proof fences were eventually built. Next pick, please, Sarah. Cameron Corner. Cameron's Corner is the mecca of fences in Australia, where the border fences of South Australia, New South Wales and Queensland meet. And in 1880, the state surveyor, John Brewer Cameron, no less, spent 2 years wandering around the outback trying to figure where the border between the three states should actually be. In the end, he stuck his post not where he thought he'd stuck it, but somewhere else. This arbitrary border had been put in the wrong place, and it remains in this wrong place to this day, despite the maps telling us differently. Next pick, please, Sarah. Apart from me, there are many creatures on this planet who willfully don't understand what fences are designed for and inhabit them. Here are some spiders spinning in the wind near Milparinka, which is a ghost town in extreme northwest New South Wales. I think we're going to skip some of this because we're way behind on time. I was going to tell you about barbed wire, which amazingly enough can be played as a musical instrument. It took me some years to find out. If you want to hear how and see how barbed wire is played, there's plenty of stuff on YouTube, including my biggest YouTube hit even. And we'll leave out the stuff politically about fences. Of course, there were 3 US bases in this country, and now we only have really 1 that's functional, but they're all surrounded by fences. And our attempts to play the fence around Pine Gap, which is very close to where we live, remain unresolved to this day. But you never know when the opportunity might arise. And I'm going to leave it there. There's much more to this story that I've touched on, but hopefully I've given you a few tasters.